the minority, led by Dr. Gyakye Quayson, today boycotted proceedings in Parliament to throw their weight or their support behind their colleagues who are facing charges in court. Two major cases, St. North, James Gyakye Quayson, who faces counts of perjury, forgery, and a count of deceiving a public official, all coming out of his filing of nominations and contesting and being elected in the 2020 general elections, which election, of course, was nullified by the Supreme Court in that decision that ordered Parliament to expunge his name from their records as an MP. That, of course, we heard the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagman, seek clarity on the order from the Supreme Court as to what really expunge James Gyakye Quayson from the records of Parliament means and who really should do this. This led to a by-election because a seat was declared vacant upon receipt of a notice or letter from the Electoral Commission. This by-election was held and James Gyakye Quayson won this election decisively, beating Charles Opoku of the NPP very convincingly there. Today, his case has been heard, and true to the word of the minority, they have boycotted proceedings in Parliament to support James Gyakye Quayson in court. Now, there was a second case involving Dr. Gyakye Quayson, which was also heard today. Let's go to the courts now and speak to Hansen Ajiman on the activities of the day. Thank you very much, Hansen. We've heard from Sami Jemfi, the communications officer of the NDC, and a member of James Gyakye Quayson's legal team. But really, must have been an interesting day in court, seeing all these members of Parliament showing up to support their colleagues.
Well, it's been an interesting one in Parliament because if you look at these cases, talk about Honorable James Gyakye Quayson, the Member of Parliament for St. North, and also the Minority Leader, Ato Forsen. Now, these are cases that have been ongoing for quite some time now. From time to time, you get some form of representation from the minority group in Parliament and also the executives and affiliates of the NDC troop to Parliament, troop to the court to provide support for these persons who are standing trial for different charges. Now, it's interesting because we have over 30 members of Parliament who trooped to the House today in solidarity, as they put it. The minority leader himself, Ato Forsen, was here, even though he had a case in court. Initially, he was at the court where the James Gyakye Quayson trial was ongoing. Again, the North Tongue Member of Parliament, in the person of Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, the ranking member on the Health Committee, Minta Akando, MP for Ashaiman, Ernest Nogbe, talk about James Agauga, talk about Ablagomashi, and a host of other NDC MPs were here today. Again, the NDC's head of legal affairs, Abraham Amaleba, as well as his communications officer, Sami Jemfi, was here. And basically, the point they've been making is that they are here to provide support to their colleagues who, in their words, are being persecuted by the state. The duty of the court today was essentially, as far as the James Gyakye Quayson case is concerned, was to hear arguments from the defense and also from prosecution concerning a stay of proceedings application. Now, the defense team led by Chachi Shikata had filed a stay of proceedings application because they are moving to the Court of Appeal for the Court of Appeal to overturn a decision by the High Court to hear the case on a daily basis. And so the arguments were heard today. Now, before making a point as to why the stay of proceedings should be granted, Chachi Shikata gave an inkling into what they'll be arguing on when they go to the Court of Appeal. The point he's making is that if you look at Article 296 of the 1992 Constitution, it provides a limitation on discretionary powers that are used by persons in authority. And it says some of these limitations includes that these discretionary powers should be used in fairness and in the thinking and reasoning of the defense team, the court or the judge erred because her decision or the use of those discretionary powers were not used in light of Article 296. He also makes the point that that decision again is an affront on Article 19 of the 1992 Constitution, which provides for the fair trial rules. He admits, of course, that an accused person should be given fair trial within a reasonable time. But the point of disagreement is that reasonable time does not necessarily mean that you should try the person on a daily basis. And so the decision to try Gyakye Quayson on a daily basis is an affront to Article 19. Again, he makes the point that if you look at Godfred Yeboah-Dame, the Attorney General, and also President Akufo-Addo, comments that they've made concerning this particular trial, he believes that these comments are prejudicial and will affect the fair administration of the case. And so one ground for which they are seeking a reversal of the decision is that the comments made by the president during the July 25 rally in Asin North was in essence prejudicial and to a large extent even contemptuous. Again, he says that some comments that have been made by the Attorney General Godfred Dame in themselves will lead to a prejudicial comments. He also makes the comparing this situation to what he himself, Gyakye Quayson, faced between 2000 and 2008 when he was put before the fast-track court. He's saying that this is a replica of what happened within that period where the Attorney General, then President Akufo-Addo, was bent on sending him to jail in his own words. And he's saying that if this is allowed to stay, if the daily trial is allowed to stay, then the court is at risk of repeating what happened to him. And he does not wish this on anyone. Now, on the substantive ground for the stay of proceedings, he's arguing that if the court continues to hear this matter on daily basis, then it essentially will go against it will be prejudging the matter because they are seeking the Court of Appeal to essentially reverse this decision not to hear the matter on daily basis. And so if you do not hold on to proceedings and you go ahead to hear them, then you're essentially prejudging what will happen at the Court of Appeal. So this is in summary the arguments that were raised by the lead counsel for James Gyakye Quayson, that is Gyakye Quayson. Now, Godfred Yeboah-Dame led the prosecution. He opposed strictly what has been raised by the defense team. Now, the first point of disagreement was that if you look at the decision, the July 16 decision, which the inherent jurisdiction of the High Court was invoked to review and vary on July 23, is substantially different from the review that they are seeking now at the Court of Appeal. The point he makes is that if you look at that July 16 ruling of the High Court, it was to the point that the court will sit on daily basis from July 20 to July 23. And so he makes the point that we've gone past July 23. And so if you are coming to court for the court to review his decision, in his words, is a useless application and shouldn't be countenanced. He also goes to the point of a decision that will not stay proceeding, prejudging the matter to the point that the application in itself prejudged itself because the decision concerned itself with July 20 to July 23. And so, in essence, the court cannot give a decision to say that we will not sit on daily basis from July 20 to July 23 because the court has gone past that day. Now, he makes a comment on the prejudicial comment, and he disagrees entirely that he has made any prejudicial comments. He says that the comments that are attributed to him are comments he made during the hearing of the civil matter at the Supreme Court, particularly when the Supreme Court, somewhere in March, gave an injunction or granted an injunction onto the Asin North Member of Parliament, then acting as a Member of Parliament. So he was saying that when he made that comment and compared the trial or the case of Gyakye Quayson to Adamu Sakande, It was essentially to the civil matter at the Supreme Court. And so there's nowhere they can point to that he, Godfred Dame, has made any prejudicial comment to the, as far as the criminal trial is concerned. On the part of the president, he makes the point that the comments made by President Akufo-Addo, in his view, are being distorted. And in court today, the defense team played some 1 minute 30 seconds of the audio of that address by the president. He's saying that that does not give a fair reflection of what the president was talking about, and it's at best a distortion of what actually happened. He went ahead to justify the points made by the president and indicated that these points in no way are prejudicial to the instant case at the High Court, which is the criminal trial being faced by James Gyakye Quayson on counts of perjury and deceiving a public official. And so these are the arguments basically. After proceedings, the judge adjourned the case to July 11, where she will deliver her ruling. So next week when we come back to court, we're going to hear from the judge if she's going to stay proceedings for the Court of Appeal to hear the appeal case. If not, then the case will be the substantive case, which will then give the opportunity to the state to call their witness. And before all these matters started, the case was about calling, the state was about calling its first witness in the person of Richard Techimensan. Now, Richard Techimensan used to be a regional executive of the NPP in the central region. And so where we've gotten to as far as this case is concerned is to wait to July 11, where the court will come out with its ruling as to whether it will stay proceedings or not.
Right. Now, Hansen, so that's the case for James Gyakye Quayson, an application for a stay of proceedings while the lawyers or the defense team heads to the Court of Appeal for a review of the decision to hear his case on a daily basis. We wait to the adjourned date to get whether or not the judge really will grant the stay of proceedings. But then also there was the case of the minority leader, Dr. Kysiel Forson. Tell us about that case as well.
Well, so the first case involving James Gyakye Quayson started at 11 a.m. That for Ato Forson, the minority leader, was expected to start at noon. Now, some 5 minutes to 12, Ato Forson, who was in the court where the James Gyakye Quayson case was being heard, now left the courtroom in order to go for his own trial. However, the case was not called because, as the information was later revealed, one of the accused person is actually not in good health conditions, a health condition, and so couldn't make it for trial today. And so, in the wisdom of the court has adjourned that particular case. What was expected today was for Alex Mode to continue with his testimony, where essentially the state will continue with the cross-examination, and possibly the other accused persons, if they have any cross-examination, to continue with that. And so that particular case didn't come on because one of the accused person is not in good health condition. But also take note that unlike the previous directive which we saw, that the minority group was saying that they were going to be in court every time when James Gyakye Quayson will be in court. When we spoke to the NDC's communications officer, Sami Jamfi, he made the point that they've actually been taking a decision that for all NDC MPs and who are standing trial, which they deem to be persecution, for every day they come to court, what happened in Parliament will happen again, where the minority MPs will essentially boycott the House and come to the court and show some solidarity to him. We know that Ato Forson is in court. We know that Collins Dauda is also in court as far as the Saglemi case is concerned. And so this decision by the minority and by extension the NDC is an interesting one, looking at the two arms of government, the legislature vis-a-vis the judiciary, and how this will play out in subsequent sittings. Right.
So, I mean, we know that the Gyakye Quayson case has to do with forgery or perjury and a charge of deceiving a public official. Collins Dowda has to do with the Saglemi housing project. If you are able, kindly brief us about the Atuforsen case.
So the Atuforsen case has to do with some ambulances that were purchased by the state. And so these ambulances came in and they were declared not fit for purpose because they didn't have the key materials, the equipment within the ambulances. Some of them didn't have the very basic equipment for them to be ambulances. And so the state instituted the trial against Atuforsen and some other accused person. Now, the case against Atuforsen is that at the time these ambulances were purchased, he was the deputy finance minister. And he issued a letter for the approval of the letters of credit for which payments were then made to the company that purchased these ambulances on behalf of the state. The point the prosecution has been making is that if you look at the letters of credit, the letter or the request for the letters of credit, Atuforsen at the time he wrote that letter didn't have any approval. And so the state has led evidence to indicate that indeed, from their point of view, Atuforsen did not have any form of approval. And so somewhere last 2 months, the court delivered its ruling on an application of no case when the state closed its case. And the court indicated that a prima facie case has been made against Atuforsen and the other accused persons. And so, essentially, the point now is on Atuforsen to present his case. And so, he started some 3 weeks ago, where first he called an officer of a bank that was initially supposed to facilitate the purchase of these ambulances. Now, that particular witness was actually subpoenaed. And so he came in, gave his evidence. And so last week, when the case was called, his second witness, in the person of Alex Mode, was also called in to give his evidence. Now, Alex Mode came in and essentially his testimony in support of the case of Atuforsen is that he is certain that sometimes deputy ministers are given the authority to make some of these requests on behalf of the substantive minister, and essentially making a point that Atuforsen got approval, but he was queried during cross-examination as to whether he has it in fact that indeed Atuforsen was given approval, that he answered in the negative. But essentially, Alex Mode was supposed to continue with his testimony today. We know that there are other persons who lawyers of Atuforsen have secured a court order to compel their appearance in court to testify as far as the case concerning Atuforsen is concerned. Now, one of these persons is in the person of Alex Segbefia. He was a former minister in the SWA NDC government and a former director at the health ministry, and some other persons who, in the wisdom of lawyers of Atuforsen, are linked to the case and can help him rebut the case that have been made against him by the state. And so this is by far what we've gotten to as far as the Atuforsen matter is concerned. And so at the next agenda, Alex Mode will take the stand. When he's discharged, then the other persons who a writ of summons was issued for, like Alex Segbefia, will be expected to make their way to the High Court. Mind you, on the day this writ of summons was admitted or approved by the court gave a caution that if these persons refuse to make an appearance in court by issuing the writ of summons, it may warrant or legitimize the issuing of a warrant of arrest for these persons.
All right, Hansen Ajiman, thank you so very much. And we trust that you'll give us more in our subsequent bulletins so we can keep our viewers updated as well. Thank you so very much, Hansen Ajiman, our court correspondent, giving us the details of proceedings today in court with respect to the two cases, one involving James Gyakye Quayson, Asin North MP, and of course the minority leader, Dr. Gyakye Quayson. Sorry. There's also the case of Collins Dauda, which is to be heard involving the Saglemi case, the Saglemi Housing project. You want to stay tuned to City TV as we bring you more on these and other stories in our subsequent bulletins. But the major story for today is that the minority in Parliament has walked the talk and walked out of the House, boycotted business of Parliament to support their colleagues who are currently facing charges in court. My name is Nana Tufo Boatin. Many thanks for your time. Keep watching City TV.
The Voice Factory Season 5. Refreshed by McBerry Twist Cupcakes. Simply irresistible. Official voting partner, Nalo Solutions. Making it happen. Sponsored by Copen Hospitality. Tourism at its best. Refreshed by Eddie's Pizza. Can't beat that. Brought to you by Ebony Condoms. Make it worth it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Voice Factory Season 5. We've just experienced our first eviction round, and there are plenty more to come in the weeks coming up. So in order to save your favorite contestants, make sure that you hit those voting lines as soon as the show ends. Till then, the genre for tonight, or the musical assignment, is inspirational music. And moving swiftly to our next contestant, I would like to invite Cielo B to the main stage.
Hi everyone, it's Cielo B here. So after last week's performance, I realized an improvement, and I'm still working on myself based on the instructions given from our MD. So this week, the genre is inspirational, and I'll be performing I Look to You by Whitney Houston. I need you to please vote for me because it's eviction week. Please dial *920*973# and choose number 10, Cielo B, to keep me in this competition because I still have a long way to go. So please support me. Thank you.
Cielo B.
As I lay me down, heaven hear me now. I'm lost without a cause, after giving it my all. Winter storms have come and darkened my sun. After all that I've been through, who on again I turn to? I look to you, I look to you. After all my strength is gone, in you I can be strong. I look to you. I look to you. Yeah. And when melodies are gone, and you hear a song, I look to you. About to lose my breath, there's no more fighting left, sinking to rise no more, searching for that open